Yo, this is fantasy, no need for panicking. You just sit back, relax, enjoy the pageantry. We love the game that's first, the one with hard hits. Like mitts, we catching wins and now we can't quit. Like GMs in the draft, we looking for an edge. Never stop looking, that's the one and only pledge. The wedge is between us and the trophy. Think I'm about to stop, homie, you must not know me. On the pod, we try to chill and keep it real. Like Bill, we always better checking for a steal. Yo, we loading up on all the sleepers and keepers. My expertise is running backs and wide receivers. Believe you never knew how much you needed. This ain't Brooklyn, but there still ain't no sleeping. Welcome to the show. You're listening to the No Sleep Till Football podcast, a co-commish.com production. Here are your hosts, Jerry Ware, Michael Joyner, and Richie Ward.
Welcome back to the No Sleep Till Football podcast. It is an honor to be here. It is an honor to have your time. We know time is such a valuable commodity, and so we are so greatly appreciative that you would spend some of yours with us. So this is part 2 of our preseason predictions episode. If you missed part 1, run on back and get that one in you before you dive in here. We want to thank you again for tuning in with us. We're excited to be here. I'm joined as always by the commissioner, Michael Joyner.
Hey, buddy.
And a guy who I would never share a razor with, Richie Ward.
Yo, what's up? You don't like my beard?
Up, fellas?
I'm liking these digs. These pretty good. This is solid, Jerry. Upping up your game. Y'all ready for some news stories?
Yeah.
What you got for us, man?
All right, so the big news of the weekend. Jay Cutler, the gunslinger, signs with the Dolphins.
Smoking Jay.
Teams back up with Adam Gase,
Whoa.
who coached them in Chicago in 2015. What do y'all think? Hot take, go.
I think it's pretty interesting. What do you think, Richie?
Yeah, he's better than Tannehill. I fully believe that. I think Tannehill was kind of handcuffing that team into not making any moves. So they were invested in him. But, yeah, I mean, Cutler's an upgrade, but Cutler has Cutler ever won in a Super Bowl with anybody ever? It is exciting. It's a big name. I was honestly kind of more excited to see him in broadcasting, but the Dolphins will be more fun to watch for me now. I don't think it for fantasy. I don't know that it has a huge impact though.
Just on the surface, I like him teaming back up with Adam Gase. That year he was with Gase in Chicago in 15. That was actually a pretty solid year. We'll get into it a little later in the podcast, but I'm a believer. If he got that, he got the shoulder surgery in the off season, and if he corrected that issue and is somewhat still in shape, I saw a quote that he said, "Good thing I'm a quarterback and I don't need to be in that great of shape." So I don't know about that, but if he still got that arm and he can be somewhat accurate, I mean, he was 65% accuracy with Gase that year. That was a pretty interesting year. So, I don't know. I may look at him at a QB2 level, maybe a bench spot.
Can you imagine how many packs of cigarettes he's been smoking?
Too. I mean, you think he smokes Marlboro Reds?
Oh, absolutely, especially when he's retired.
I think he smokes Marlboro Reds.
Back a day ever since he walked away.
He smokes Marlboro Reds while watching The Hills.
Yes.
On repeat.
That's all he's been doing.
I'm kind of with you, Michael, on the quarterback 2 thing, though. I mean, to me, he's almost like I could see him finishing kind of in that Matthew Stafford, Andy Dalton kind of range,
Ooh.
where he's usable in fantasy, he's a streaming option. I don't know that he's somebody I'm going after that I'm I got to get this guy on my team, but he's a guy that I think if he falls and you're kind of looking for the late round, you're taking who's left, you could do a lot worse than that, I think.
Yo, that's
first off, Jerry, I
cut you deep with that Matthew Stafford one.
You just trying to go. Yeah, you tried to go over that pretty quick. I have Stafford ranked 4th. I have not moved him down since our last podcast. There's no way No way he's a streaming quarterback. If he's not on somebody's roster, he's
In my
on
mind,
mine.
he's not even in the top 10, so it's hard for me to I just mentally, he's not there.
Man.
But I understand.
I got it. Hold on. I can't let it go. You battled him with Stafford. I've got Dalton at 9. I am not. I mean, I love Andy Dalton. This dude, Jay Cutler, is not going to do better than Andy Dalton. Hold up. I can't let it stand. I need a bet.
Ooh,
All right,
what's the bet?
What's the bet?
Jerry, I will bet you 3 fantasy
I
dollars.
didn't necessarily say he was going to be better than Andy Dalton.
I'll rewind the tape.
All right, what is it again?
I will bet you 3 fantasy dollars.
I said I think I could see him finishing in that Andy Dalton, Matthew Stafford range, which in my mind is like the 12 to 18 quarterback tier. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Well, you've got Dalton at 16.
I'm not trying to put him in the top 10. You guys put guys I said in the top 10. I didn't ever do that. That was y'all.
All right. Hold up. We're in a
I've
14-team
got him
league.
safely snugged in that QB2 range.
Let me speak. We're in a 14-team league. Jay Cutler will not finish as a QB1 inside the top 14. That is my statement. Do you accept?
All right, I'll roll with it. Let's do it.
Boom. You heard it here.
Why not? Sounds fun.
How many dollars is this?
Trace.
Holy smokes.
$3 real dollars? I'd rather do $3 real dollars.
Real dollars? No, this is a fake football podcast.
Real money is what we're talking about. 300 cents is what the offer is.
There is a bet on the table that Cutler will finish that he won't finish in the top 14 by the end of the year. If he does, Richie will forfeit 3 fantasy dollars. If he does not, then Jerry will forfeit 3 fantasy dollars. We have this on recording.
Done.
If
Done
we
deal.
need to play it
You
back.
guys kind of twisted what I said. You shoved him up into that QB1 range where that was never my intention to go. But I'll roll with it.
You said
I'll
he'd
stick
do
with my
better
boy
than
Cuddy.
Dalton.
Let's do it.
Done.
Hey, what's more likely to happen? Mariota in the top 5 or Cutler in the top 14, Jerry?
Oh.
That's a good question. I could see both happening. I think Mariota in the top 5's more Mariota. I'm sorry.
It is Mario.
It's Mariota,
Thank
right?
you.
Marcus Mariota.
Yep. Think Mario
Am I saying that
Yoda.
right?
Mario Yoda.
You corrected me on that before, and now I'm really self-conscious about it every time I say his name.
Yeah, you should be. I almost punched Michael on our last
I would say Mariota in the top 5 is more likely.
All right, second piece of news I have for you guys is that Anquan Bolden signed with the Bills. Is this fantasy relevant news?
I believe that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, Jerry. We talked last time about how Bolden is just a touchdown machine. I think what that does is it's going to help Tyrod Taylor, throw more touchdowns. It just bumps everybody in the receiving core down a notch. Zay Jones, I may have thrown a late-round dart at Zay Jones. I'm not doing that anymore. Charles Clay, if you had any dreams of him being anything, those are gone. Yeah, that's how we talked about it. Bolden killed Ebron's touchdown potential, and that's what he's going to do to any red zone targets in Buffalo. He's going to eat up those touchdowns. I think Watkins is still fine, and Taylor improves.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those guys I won't be able to pull the trigger and draft him in any fantasy draft. Like, I'll come close, and I'll just, every time I'll be like, and then I won't do it. And then I'll regret it in like a month when he's getting 16 points every week. That's been like the last 5 years of Anquan Bolden's career for me as a fantasy player. Maybe I'll learn my lesson someday, but I think it does help Sammy Watkins, though, to have somebody else that can kind of go over the middle and take a little bit of pressure off of him. I've been thinking for a while the Bills needed to sign somebody. I think that's probably a pretty good addition to the offense. The Bills are pretty kind of a sexy offense a little bit in my mind.
I'm becoming a believer in Tyrod Taylor. So I've watched him. Obviously, you guys know I'm a McCoy fan. Sitting here in my Eagles McCoy throwback, and when I watch his games, because inevitably I have him on one of my fantasy teams, I watch Taylor, and man, there's some times where he looks like Kaepernick from like 3-4 years ago. I mean, he just looks unstoppable. He can do it all. And then there's times where it's like, man, this guy should be a backup somewhere. So he has all the potential, it's all on the line for him this season. So he hopefully shows up.
True that. It's going to be exciting to watch. Hey, let's get into our game. We're going to do another round of
Believe it or not.
And I'm excited about this week's version of Believe It or Not because we are having blind statements. So you'll get our real reactions to these statements. It's going to be fun. So we've all got a player or a couple players we're going to make a statement about again this time, and we'll see whether each of us believe it or not. So I'm going to start with my belief that Chiefs quarterback Alex Smith and running back Spencer Ware will each not start more than 10 games for Kansas City this year. Ware didn't total over 77 yards in any game or score more. He only had one touchdown after week 6 last year, and he had 4 fumbles. I mean, man, like we all know they brought in Kareem Hunt in the 3rd round. It's a pretty big investment for Andy Reid, who never picks running backs early in the draft. Andy Reid said, I didn't know this until today when I was doing some research, but Andy Reid said that Kareem Hunt was their number 1 running back on their draft board. So, and on the Alex Smith front, Alex Smith, he's a game manager. He's your prototypical game manager. He doesn't screw it up, but he's not going to win the big game for you, man. They went out and got Patrick Mahomes, number 10 overall. I got to believe once the team is struggling, they're going to move on. They're going to put those rookies in there and harvest that talent. Do you guys believe it or not?
I do not believe it. And my reason has more to do with Spencer Ware than it does Alex Smith. I'm kind of with you that I could see Alex Smith fading at some point, or I don't know, I can see this offense kind of hitting a rut and feeling like they needed a spark, or something happened and Mahomes gets a shot to play and they never look back with him as their guy. Your prediction is that he doesn't play 10 games. Is that right?
I said neither one of them will start more than 10 games.
Okay, start more. Okay, so you
Right.
think eventually Kareem Hunt takes over the backfield. Is essentially your prediction?
Right, yeah, and I'm not saying that Ware won't get carries.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, I gotcha. I guess for me, I feel like Kareem Hunt's probably more of a 3rd down back kind of option. And I think Spencer Ware, I think this is his offense. I think they struggled a little bit last year in general, but for me, I think Spencer Ware is a pretty safe bet to keep getting a bulk of the carries. And I thought he was really good at times last year, struggled sometimes last year. For me, I feel like the person whose job is in trouble due to Kareem Hunt is Charkandrick West. I think Charkandrick West is out of the picture completely.
Oh, totally.
And Kareem Hunt steps into that role. And I think Spencer Ware's role is safe.
Jerry, you're like I don't know, you believe in the fit. And I thought above anybody you might think back to Andy Reid. When has he ever used a 3rd down back, a receiving back? He's always used that workhorse back. When he finds somebody who can carry the load for him, he goes with him. So that's just why I think at some point this season, when Spencer Ware is kind of hitting a wall, that Kareem Hunt's going to get that opportunity and take off with it, much like you said Mahomes would.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that playing out like that. I guess my thing is he's been using a workhorse back, but he's had, Jamal Charles, who's a pretty elite option. And then, in Philadelphia, he had Brian Westbrook. I think maybe Spencer Ware fits a different mold. I think Kareem Hunt could fit that role, and they could use him more in tandem. But you're right. I mean, that is how Andy Reid's done most of his career. So I don't know. What do you think, Michael?
So I'm going to say I believe it. And the reasons why I believe it is, one, I looked up the schedule while Jerry was talking. I was looking up the schedule of the Chiefs. In the first 5 weeks of the season, they have New England, obviously, opening night. They have Philly, which I'm biased toward. They have the Chargers, Washington, and Houston. I think out of those 5 games, I can only honestly see them winning 1, maybe 2 out of those first 5 games. They have a bye in week 10. I could see them really struggling through that until that bye, and then deciding, you know what, we want to give these last 6-7 games, and let's see what we got in Mahomes. Let's see what we have in Hunt. I think it's a perfect break. I think I've been looking at my rankings lately, and even before this discussion, I was looking at this running back situation as you have to pair these guys up. This is a true handcuff situation.
Yeah.
That if you go Ware, you have to be able to invest in Hunt too. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. One thing that I do remember reading about was that, after Spencer Ware had his concussion last year, he just didn't look like the same player. So he looked like somebody that was ready to have his job taken. The Alex Smith, he's already stated he feels like this is right back in San Francisco. he's playing on a 1-year deal, and they thinks it's just it's just going to be a matter of time before they stop believing in him. And so I could definitely see both of those things happening. Knowing Andy Reid as well as I do, he could run Spencer Ware into the ground. We saw him get hurt last year. They have an investment that they want to see out of Hunt, young, durable. I could see both of that happening.
Yeah, he is 5'11", 208. He's got, decent size for a workhorse running back. But what I'm interested to know from both of you guys, and Michael, I'll ask you first, if this does happen, so say after that bye, Kareem Hunt does take over, and you draft both of these guys in your fantasy draft. So you started Spencer Ware weeks 1 through 9, and then you start Kareem Hunt the rest of the way. Do you think that those weeks, those points add up to an RB1 finish?
I don't personally, only because that division that they're playing in, I just think it's going to be a really solid. It's always been a really solid division. They have Denver. They have Oakland that's been rejuvenated. The Chargers. I mean, I'm a big believer in Joey Bosa. I think they really added. I think they end up coming close. If I had to pick one or the other, though, I'd probably say barely running back one, but right on the cusp.
It's really low end RB1. Yeah, that division is really tough.
Yeah, I agree. But I think there is a point there that you got a trend we've seen with Andy Reid where his running backs are valuable, and he does usually go with one guy. And it's been a really valuable backfield for the last 4, 5, 6 years. I don't know. I would say yes, but it probably is borderline. I want to talk about Joseph Mixon.
Ooh.
This is a player that's interesting to me and the community's reaction to him. His ADP on Fantasy Pros right now is 35th overall. He's a 35th player off the board. Not the 35th running back, 35th overall player. So that's right around the end of that third round, right at the beginning of the fourth round. He's the 16th running back off the board. I mean, I get it to some extent. Lots of the running backs at this point in the draft are gambles. We're kind of creeping into the committee backs. A lot of the obvious workhorses are gone. Looking at the rankings, Carlos Hyde, Spencer Ware, that guy we just talked about, still on the board. Not to mention, it's kind of that sweet spot where I feel like you get some really great wide receiver value. So for me personally, I have a hard time feeling good about him there, and I probably won't ever own him in a redraft league. So my prediction is that I think he will be very frustrating to own while stuck in a committee, and you're going to wish you'd taken somebody safer. And I think he will finish outside the top 20 running backs in fantasy.
Oh.
On one hand, I think he'll likely be one of the better weapons on this Bengals team. He's going to have his weeks. But on the other, I wonder, if he's so good, why was he stuck in a timeshare in college with Samaje Perine at Oklahoma, who's not even really a comparable athlete to Mixon? We've never seen Mixon be a bell cow running back. His body's never gone through the rigors of an entire season handling 25-plus carries. He had a college dominator rating of 24%. So if you don't know, the dominator rating basically tells us what percentage of the total yards and touchdowns was this player responsible for in their college time, in their college offense. So let's picture the offense kind of outside of the quarterback production as this big piece of pie. Whatever role you had, however many times you touched the ball and scored touchdowns, whatever, every time you get a touch, your piece of the pie gets bigger and bigger. So basically, Joe Mixon's piece of the pie was 24%. An elite number for a running back is typically 40% or above. That's kind of what we're looking for. Now, I'm not saying dominator rating is just, the end-all, be-all for predicting running backs. I'm not trying to say that it is. I'm just saying it's a bit of a red flag for me. If I'm taking a rookie that high in drafts, he doesn't check all the boxes, like many of these fancy, highly known fantasy analysts will lead you to believe. But also want to talk about his situation a little bit. You still got Giovanni Bernard, who just received a 3-year contract extension. He's coming off an ACL injury, but apparently he's healed well, looking explosive in camp. I believe he's a guy that will have a role as a satellite back on this team and come in on third downs and catch passes. He's the highest paid running back of the group. He's just a guy that's been around for a while now. The coaches apparently love him. I think that means something and isn't to be brushed aside. You also have Jeremy Hill still on the team. He's in the final season of his rookie contract, trying to prove he belongs somewhere in the league. I think this is the guy that Mixon was drafted to eventually replace. Doesn't it feel like Jeremy Hill's like 48 years old? Like, I feel like he's been in the league for like 25 years. Jeremy Hill is only 24 years old.
He's been playing since he was in
He
diapers.
hasn't even reached his prime yet. He has a 1,000-yard rushing season under his belt. Do I think he's better than Mixon? No, not necessarily. But also don't think he's just going to fade away into the background completely on this offense. I don't think it'd be that shocking if he walks out in week 1 as the Bengals starting running back. To be honest, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that was what we saw. And that kind of uncertainty just kind of scares me off. Another thing I want to talk a little bit about, the Bengals coach, Marvin Lewis, old school guy by nature, like many other NFL coaches, doesn't tend to trust rookies over proven veterans. I found a fun stat I want to share. Out of every team in the league, the Bengals were bottom 5 in their use of rookies in 2016. They were 5th from last place in NFL snaps taken by the rookies, just over 1,000 snaps. So they didn't use their rookies often at all last year. And that could be due to lack of injuries, could be due to bad drafting, who knows. But I think most Bengals fans will tell you Marvin Lewis is known for rolling with the proven veteran players that know the system best over the unknown, high-ceiling rookie. It's why in 2013, when everyone in the fantasy community was screaming for Giovanni Bernard to be the bell cow running back, but the pesky Ben Jarvis Green Ellis wouldn't go away. That's right, the law firm, baby. In 2014, when Jeremy Hill emerges, we're all screaming for him to be the bell cow, except Giovanni Bernard wouldn't go away. I think we're back in a similar situation, except now we have 3 backs who all seem to deserve some playing time. So I don't know. I think all 3 of these backs are going to be used in different ways. I think Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard will be pesky all season long for Mixon owners, stealing goal line carries, getting the nod on 3rd down, just being a pain in the butt all year, ruining all the Mixon parties. That's what I think. Believe it or not.
Repeat the statement one more time, Jerry. The full believe it statement.
Sure. Do you believe that Joe Mixon will finish as a top 20 running back in fantasy football?
I do not believe it. This is just a sticky situation that I want to stay away from. There's so many people that have the hype. Listen, I can somewhat believe in it, and if he was on the Eagles, I would force myself to believe in it. But the issue is that if Hill goes down, I really do think Mixon could end up in the top 20. I think he's obviously he went through all the offseason, all the draft stuff. He should be more motivated than ever. But at the same time, who else is more motivated than ever right now? Jeremy Hill is more motivated than anybody right now. I can't think of another player in a situation that should be more motivated, maybe except Alex Smith. But like Jeremy Hill just saw, they had him, they had Giovanni Bernard, and they're already planning his replacement after he's done with his contract at the end of the season. So for him, he's going to go into this season and just go as hard as he possibly can. So one, if other people are going to go high on Mixon, I'm going to be one of those guys that takes the flyer on Hill if the price isn't too crazy. Two, they've already been a report about Joe Mixon having a foot injury already. I think it was pretty minor, but foot injuries, anytime you're dealing with ankles, feet, with running backs, I mean, that's their bread and butter. You got to have that. So maybe he's healed up in time. Too much running back depth. You need Bernard, Hill injury. I mean, you need something to happen or for one of them to get released. I don't see either of those likely to happen. Now, the Bengals do have the 11th easiest strength of schedule prediction upcoming, so I do like that. But, man, I'm just more of a believer in Hill. And as you just already have stated, you got an old school coach that probably should have been fired last year because they really aren't going to get over the top with him. I like him, but you gotta bring in somebody else to fire him up in a way that they haven't been fired up before. But check this out. Jeremy Hill actually wasn't that bad last year. Like, he averaged 11.75 points last season. And for a running back 2, maybe 3, That's a fairly consistent number. You take out one game against Dallas that he only got 8 yards, and now he's up to 13 points per game. I like 13 points a game. I think it's pretty unrealistic to think that for an RB2 or a 3 flex that you're going to get that on a consistent basis. Now, again, hey, I'm averaging it, so it's not the most consistent thing. But at the same time, they're a ground team. I like Lewis. I'm not a big believer in Dalton. I think Richie likes him a lot more than I do. I could see them running a lot, and I think Hill's more the guy. So I do not believe that that Mixon will finish in the top 20.
All right, so I definitely believe it, but I'm terrified because there are so many reasons not to believe it. Not the ones Michael laid out, but there are other reasons. Man, I'm sorry, Mike. Jeremy Hill sucks. He's not a good running back. He got all those numbers. I mean, the numbers you gave that he got last year were pretty mediocre. Like you said, you'd be okay with it. Like if he was your RB3 maybe. But like he got all those crappy numbers while Gio was out with his ACL injury last year. Like Jeremy Hill gets the goal line carries because there's just nobody else there. Jeremy Hill's not very good. Gio is very good. Or Gio was very good. He tore his ACL. I mean, nobody thought he'd be coming back as fast as he did. I think everybody predicted him to miss training camp and maybe part of the beginning of the season. It looks like that's not going to happen. So, assuming he doesn't re-injure anything and he's what he was and what has been in the past, then I think Gio is really going to cut into Mixon's workload. He's going to take some receptions. So in a PPR league, that really hurts Mixon's value. And I think Gio's a great sleeper. Again, assuming he doesn't get hurt again. I think Hill's a worthless pile of garbage. But Mixon, I really believe, is the best running back in this draft. His off the field stuff kept him from being drafted as such. But I mean, like Jerry pointed out that he was in a timeshare at Oklahoma, and like, why would that be if he's better than Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook? But I mean, like Samaje Perine is a good running back, and I mean, Adrian Peterson and DeMarco Murray were in a timeshare at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a running back university. Good running backs come out of Oklahoma, and if you have 2 elite future NFL Hall of Fame running backs like DeMarco Murray and Adrian Peterson, you're going to split their workload. But I mean, I can talk about why I'm scared. Like the Bengals' offensive line really sucks. It's really bad. One of the worst in the NFL. Hill does get the goal line carries, although I think that's going to stop happening when Mixon proves to be a lot better than him at that. When Gio takes those third down carries and reception, it does on paper at least little opportunity for Mixon. But man, I believe he's good enough to prove he's better than Gio and Hill at what they're good at. It may take the first third or even half of the season, but man, I really think Mixon is just a stud, and he's going to end up being one of the top running backs in the league for a long time.
See, that's kind of my point, though, too, is that you talk about, Mixon may, maybe halfway through the season, this starts happening. This starts becoming real. But maybe it doesn't. I mean, we've seen this before with the Bengals where you're sitting there rooting for something to happen because everyone in the country sees the talent, but the coaching staff doesn't budge their approach, and you're kind of stuck sitting frustrated. And that's kind of my point is I think
scary.
We believe about Jeremy Hill is kind of irrelevant, but I think he's still going to be involved, and that's frustrating, but I think it's going to be true. I think it's interesting, too, a guy who Mixon kind of compares to in my mind is Alvin Kamara, who was also drafted in a good offense, who also split time in college with another running back. He's also competing with 2 other proven veterans that are ahead of him on the depth chart. Obviously, Mixon's bigger. He's a little bit taller. In a vacuum, I'm taking Mixon. But the point is, in fantasy drafts, Alvin Kamara is going at running back 58 and the 183rd player overall, which is pretty reasonable for a rookie. And that's what I think is interesting about Mixon is that he's a rookie who's getting drafted like he's a veteran and like his role is defined. We don't have a defined role for him. Kamara, at least we can point to, we've seen players in this third down specialist role in the Saints offense before. We've seen, Reggie Bush do it. We've seen Darren Sproles do it. We saw Travaris Cadet caught 40 passes in that role last year. And Kamar's definitely an upgrade over that. So I don't know. I think that's interesting. We're always looking for value when we're drafting, and I don't think Mixon's a great value at all right now.
I agree with you on a lot of what you just said. I think Kamara has a clear-cut role on that offense. Like we've seen that with multiple players, Reggie Bush and Darren Sproles down there, and other players more recently. But also, like, Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson are much better than Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill. It's muddier in Cincinnati, but Joe Mixon has a better path to just taking over and being the number one, as opposed to, a clear role to being just a third down back like Kamara does.
I get what you're saying. I think long term, I think you're right. The Mixon's the better. Like, we're talking a keeper league, we're talking a dynasty league. Yes, I'm buying all the Joe Mixon. If we're talking a redraft league, I don't know. Not that price. I'm not touching it. Somebody else can chase the rainbow.
Wasn't it your statement that he would be top 20? Am I crazy?
No, that he won't be top 20. That was my whole point.
Okay. Well, I don't believe that.
But he's being drafted at running back 16.
Well, in that case, I believe that he won't be in the top 20.
Dude, you're playing tricks on us, Jerry.
Me? Sorry, I wasn't trying to.
All right, let's move into our third and final believe it or not statement. This has to do with the Miami Dolphins. And as you know, as we talked at the beginning of this podcast, Cutler has signed with the Dolphins. My statement is that Jarvis Landry will finish in the top 10, and he will have the best season that he's ever had as an NFL player with Jay Cutler as his quarterback. Believe it or not. So I'm saying top 10. The sky's the limit, I think, for him. But I think the recent news with Cutler, I'm a big believer in this. Now, whether or not I want to go with Cutler on my bench or a quarterback two, whether or not I want to do that has very little to do with my belief that Landry is going to be a target monster. So first point is Landry finished 14th last year, which was a down year for him, and then he finished 8th in 2015. Remember, last year, Tannehill went down at the end of the year, so that explains some of it. It's a contract year for both wide receiver and quarterback. There's a report out there that says that Gase is a huge players coach. Knowing that this is a big year for Landry, there's a belief that he's going to target Landry often. He's going to make play calls to get it his way. He's going to set him up in the slot. They're going to move him around to make sure that he's got the ball in his hands. I think Cutler has better accuracy than Tannehill. I'm a bigger fan of Cutler than Tannehill, and this is coming from a guy that never wanted Cutler on his team, normally because of the situations in Chicago. But based on what I did see with Cutler, especially the year with Adam Gase in Chicago, I just think that this could be a huge plus for Landry as a whole. Devontae Parker, he's been a breakout candidate for the last 2 years. He's already on some sleeper lists I've seen for this year. I don't believe it. Just give it up, people. I can't stress enough. I think that the targets are going to be there. I think anytime they throw, especially after Jay Ajayi gets hurt in like week 2, maybe 3, I think they're going to be airing it out. I think Landry's going to be all over the field. He's got a big year coming up. He's already made the bold prediction that they're gonna win the AFC East. They're gonna knock the Patriots off the pedestal. He just thinks it's time for a change. They have a huge belief in Adam Gase. In his first year as coach, they took him to the playoffs. Obviously, Tannehill was hurt, so they had to rely on Matt Moore, and they ended up losing 30-12. I mean, I think that's part of the reason. So many people were like, Matt Moore is one of the highest paid backup quarterbacks. He's capable of leading this team. They lost 30-12 to the Steelers in the playoffs. I mean, that wasn't even close. And you got a full game of it, even at the end of last season. So I think Cutler gives them. I'm kind of excited to watch some Dolphins. I'll be tuning in for their first preseason game, maybe the first couple, depending on when they play the starters. So I'm excited. So the statement is that Landry will at least finish top 10 as a wide receiver in fantasy, but he will have his best season as an NFL player under Jay Cutler as his quarterback. Believe it or not.
Mike, you said 14th is his best season so far?
No, 8th.
8th? You're saying he's going to finish inside the top 8 then?
Well, he's going to finish. But part of the statement, I guess my point is, in the top 10 as a whole as far as fantasy production, because he could score more points than he has in the past and still finish 9th or 10th overall.
I got you.
But yes, essentially, to make it simpler, yes, I think he would end up top 7 in fantasy as a wide receiver, and that would be his best season.
Okay, well, I think it's interesting. I think the Michael Joyner way, it's very bold, and I could not disagree with it more. I believe it not. Man, I like. So Cutler is an upgrade over Tannehill, but man, Cutler. I think that Cutler is an upgrade for all the receiving options except for Landry. I really like. If you look back, Cutler is not known for throwing to his slot receivers, which Landry is. He's their fast slot, good route runner guy. Catch it and get yards after catch. Look, I mean, Jay Cutler likes his big receivers. He's going to throw to Parker. He might throw to Stills. He might throw to Julius Thomas. I don't think Landry's his guy. You know, I mean, like the guys he's liked in the past are Brandon Marshall. And he loved Alshon Jeffrey, and last year he loved Cameron Meredith. He likes those big dudes. That's what happens when you're inaccurate. You know, also, like, Landry's under investigation for battery. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But I don't think that the Dolphins are committing to him. He's in a contract year. They're neglecting to extend him. They've pretty much come out and said they're not going to extend him. And honestly, I think bringing in Cutler is a statement that they're not putting any money aside for Landry. They are paying Cutler $10 million on a one-year contract after he decided to retire. I think Landry is the biggest loser in this deal, and I've got to disagree with what you said.
I also do not believe it. I think it's a fun take. I also think that Landry's best seasons and his best performances came before the world in which we lived in had Jay Ajayi in it. And I think this offense will be more run-oriented than it was in the past. And I don't think that changes with Cutler. I think, if anything, probably more so with Cutler. And I think Cutler will go down the field. And also, a rad thing where Devontae Parker, apparently, this offseason is the first time he's trained his legs in the weight room.
What?
I read that somewhere. This is one of the first times he's ever extensively trained his legs in the weight room. I don't know. Wide receivers tend to run, tend to lean on their legs a bit. I think it's possible that could increase his performance. I think he's got a limitless ceiling. I think he could potentially become AJ Greenish. But I'm also with you. I get the skepticism with him too, and I get Landry's a guy that has produced the last couple of years, and people want to keep burying him in favor of Devontae Parker, and it hasn't happened. And I could see a scenario where Landry has a really good season, but still doesn't finish inside the top 10. And so I don't believe it.
Interesting, guys. I guess out of us three, I'll be targeting Landry.
You can.
Don't be bidding him up.
I guess you will.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, our website is co-commish.wordpress.com. You can visit our No Sleep Till Football podcast page, created leagues page, where you can get more information about our leagues and some unique if you're needing some ideas for your leagues. You can find us on Twitter at co-commish-admin. That's Twitter at co-commish-admin, and then Instagram at co-commish-ad for some photos of what we've been doing these days.
Well, that's going to do it for our preseason prediction episodes. Thanks so much for tuning in with us. We hope you'll join us again next week. We will have some more preseason games in us at that point, with hopefully some more insight to how this crazy season ahead of us is going to play out. We'll also be 7 days closer to finally getting a little sleep, which we all desperately need. If you like our podcast, hit the subscribe button, shoot us a line, leave us a comment, anything to let us know you kiss all the feels. See you guys next time. Stay woke, friends!